Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about raids because we do have the new raids map. Now obviously now that we have cleared it, we can't really see it anymore, but there were, well, substantial and several changes to the raids in general, including every single one of the fights. That means that instead of fighting Thanos and Kang and Maestro and Ultron, we actually have tougher opponents, because let's face it, Kang and Thanos, they're kind of like vanilla opponents. You might as well be fighting Iron Patriot or Groot. They basically have no defensive abilities and super easy deck special attacks, and it's all about not getting smacked in the face and not messing up or not missing an input. Now we're dealing with Guardian, harder deck special attacks and auto blocks on special attacks. We're dealing with Thor Ragnarok, where he gets power gain and every 20 hits and he can auto block on intercepts. And we are facing Medusa, who periodically does auto block as well, not to mention the Modok boss, who is also an auto blocking beast. Therefore, the difficulty level by the fights themselves definitely got increased, regardless of any changes to the nodes. They were just harder champions to fight, more things to keep in mind. At the same time, we got to use some new different champions, but again, for most part, I can't say that champion selection in Assault still doesn't seem to be ideal, I would say. I do think that the other two groups, for most part, are fine. I still think, for whatever reason, Assault still got the short end of the stick. There are growing pains with raids, and one of the bigger issues, we're going to go through all of them, but one of the bigger issues the Kabam definitely has to address is the interactions of the nodes with defensive ability accuracy reduction. The fact that Black Cat effectively cannot get her ramp at all at max charges, stuff like that just doesn't work great. It shouldn't happen, or Kabam should not have selected champions that can reduce the defensive ability accuracy, because Dominoes and even Nick Fury's disorients or any disorients or ability accuracy reduction significantly can mess with your damage output, with your missions, with everybody else. Not cool. It's not great. It should not happen. Kabam should have tested it and known better. But yet again, it is Kabam that we're talking about, and testing is not their strong suit. So aside from that, I do want to talk with you about the level of difficulty, because I have heard definitely quite mixed thoughts and opinions, and I myself would say that I have my perspective, which I will share with you, but I'm definitely very eager to hear yours. In addition, I want to know which champions you used and whether they did well or not. As we can see, I used Nick Fury, and I don't think I'd try to bring him in again. I could kind of live with the 30% health thing, which I kind of counted on anyways to begin with, and that's fine. But for me personally, the issue with Nick Fury was his interaction with those missions that you have to fulfill, especially in the boss fight and a couple of others, where it's cool to go unblockable and stay unblockable until Kabam asks you to hit Modok's block 4 times, at which point you don't want to be unblockable. Not really. So I don't know if I'll be bringing in Nick Fury. He didn't seem to be, that crazy either. Massacre previously, unfortunately not longer available, seemed to be doing much better job even without the Ascension. So if I have to do Assault, again, I'll try a different champion. Maybe Lady Deathstrike, maybe somebody else. Who knows? But either way, yes, definitely tell me which champions you used. So when we're breaking down the fights, overall I think all the 3 path fights are manageable. There is the bigger discussion about the boss. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely hated the previous boss. Ultron was just nasty, again, for vast majority of the champions, because his evade constantly was annoying, number 1. Number 2, those regen triggers were dreadful. You absolutely feared that regen trigger and, messing up with a force quit or something like that, not getting in a parry on time. That was annoying. And his quadruple immunities. That was annoying as well too, because again, no bleed champions worked, no poison champions worked, shock and incinerate also pretty much did not work. And that immediately took away, again, most of the champions in the assault group, because they relied on dots largely, or having the dots on in some capacity. So I was happy to see Ultron go. And I was quite happy to see the missions being changed as well, where we had to alternate in between level 1s and level 2s, and we had to connect, because that actually messed with a ton of champions. Because, every champion has ideal rotations, which specials you want to spam, and you couldn't do that against Ultron, so I didn't think that Ultron fight was a well thought out fight at all. So I was happy to see it go. Now, however, we have Modok. And for most part, I liked it better. There are couple of things that I don't like with Modok. In general, though, I definitely prefer fighting Modok, especially because his auto block abilities seem to go with the theme, where, we are meant to counter it along the way in the path fights as well. So it wasn't like, we can use a bleed champion for the entire path and then can't do it against Modok, for instance. We can still do that against Modok because he didn't have any extra immunities, and it seemed to fit in better with the overall theme of these fights. However, we do have to talk about the missions, because the missions can be quite frustrating, mainly because several of them exclusively preclude you from doing damage and kill the tempo of the fight, which makes the fight significantly more frustrating. And overall, given the fact that you have very limited amount of time that you can do damage, you just, overall feel like you have wasted a ton of time in that fight. Now, here are several forum threads about the issue as well. I'm going to pick up this one, where with 3 times Y, might as well read, play poorly and score 0 damage while completing the mission. Also, his AI just legit charges at you when you attempt to pose. And the whiffing, I didn't have as much of an issue. Again, you can whiff, it is annoying, it is time that you do not strike, and Modok often does like dash in at you, but there are times when you can get your whiffed attacks in. It wasn't as bad, I think, as the block hit thing as well, because Modok often would just refuse to hold his block, and that was more annoying to me, especially, again, as somebody who used Nick Fury. I basically couldn't use the main appeal of that champion as well. And then in general, just getting 5 hits in a block takes a lot of time, specifically because it is 5 hits. If it would be 4 hits, it would be much better, because then you can do it with a single combo. You can just, dash in, do the 4 hits, dash out, mission done. Fine, which would take significantly less time. Now that it is 5 hits, basically means that you have to do it twice. And again, given how AI behaves, it can take quite a bit of time. And that takes up a lot of time where you're not doing damage, and just makes the fight significantly less enjoyable. And that's the thing. Here, I'm not discussing like the difficulty that Modok fights too hard or Medusa fights too hard. I just think it's poor design. I think it's poorly thought out. There is time and place for missions like this, but the time and place would probably be in a fight that's not timed, where we are by design forced to revive and die, and the entire point is to do as much damage as possible. It just effectively is in counter to the build of this game mode. Therefore, again, I just don't know why Kabam did it, because these prompts go against everything this game mode is for. This game mode is get in there, be as aggressive as you can, do as much damage as you can, and die still, regardless of how well you play, but that's fine. Now we go in against a fairly difficult defender in Modok, and we can't even fight him. We have to hit his block and whiff, and it is annoying. Like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely doable. Like, for our Lions, it wasn't like a deal breaker. We still got it down on like day 2. And if Kabam doesn't change it, fully openly, we're still gonna play raids next month as well. I don't think the difficulty is insanely over the top from our alliance perspective. I do think that smaller alliances would struggle significantly more. with less experienced players. But I do, however, think it's a poorly designed fight. I do think that, there are a million prompts to choose from, and they just should not have went with these ones. They could have went with, again, connect X amount of light hits, connect X amount of medium hits, or, we do have the knockdown, might as well be, getting a dex, something. But these whiffing and block hits, don't think it's the place for them, because we are on a time restraint. And rather than being difficult, it just feels, again, bad. It feels bad rather than hard. Let me know what you guys think. For most part, I see that majority of the people really do dislike the modified. Overall, I still prefer Modok boss than Ultron boss when it comes to fight. I think Ultron boss was, for most part, harder. Modok boss is more annoying. I do think Ultron boss is harder, at least to me, after the first run. And again, keep in mind that, for us, it's also the learning bit. I think, when you can go and deal with the boss next time around, it's probably going to be easier. But yeah, hopefully Kabam adjusts the missions for him. Either way, look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about